Like the video, I have a couple of things to say. Number one, I would like to give a shout out to my boy Zora Does What Ifs. I'll leave the link to his channel in the description. He has helped me to develop my Spawn What If series, and he started doing What Ifs himself. Feel free to give his channel a watch when you're done with this video. I mean, like, just look at some of these videos. What if Deku was in news? And oh my gosh, why can I never pronounce that name? Whatever. What if Deku used a three-sword style? Shame it got so few views. That's it. What happened to another clan? Anyways, it don't matter. The second thing I would like to say is that I am currently learning how to do thumbnails. Yay! The one that you're seeing for this video is made by yours truly. I'm taking a lot of advice from others that I work with and people that I'm cool with in general to improve the quality of the thumbnails I make myself. Probably still going to ask some people if they can do some thumbnails for me though. Anyways, with that out of the way, help me reach 1,000 subs by the end of the year or close to it, and yeah, let's get on with the what if. Now, Deathstroke has a very interesting backstory that I unfortunately can't adapt 100%. Instead, I'll do something along these lines. Most of Izuku's life was that of torment. It all started with him being born quirkless, his mother trying to cheer him up when he found out the bad news, but it didn't help. He could tell she was upset that he was quirkless, but she tried to hide and get behind a fake smile. When his father found out he was quirkless, he left to go get the milk. Well, at least that's what he said at the time. Every day he wondered where his father left, but years later he would realize how foolish he was. He was an idiot to believe that his father would ever return home. Why would he? What did he have in store for when he walked inside this apartment? A kid born with a defect, a kid that would be judged by society for something he couldn't control. He would ask his mother when his dad would come back, but as the days went on, she started tearing up when he mentioned the man. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months, and she started to become more violent towards the little boy. She would start telling him that it was his fault for why she left. There was something funny about it, though. His mother was absolutely right. It was his fault, simply because of his quirkless status. The abuse wasn't just at home, though. It was also at school. Either the kids were distant from him or would bully him relentlessly. The one that hurt the most was from the boy named Katsuki Bakugo. He used to be the closest of friends with the boy, but when he found out he was quirkless, it was also around the time Katsuki discovered his explosion quirk. Everyone praised him while Izuku was mocked for his disability. Izuku hated his life. He found it unfair, and he would begin to get into several fights. Most of the time he lost, though, and he was the one that got in trouble. The ones with strong quirks got away scot-free. Izuku viewed it as incredibly biased and even attacked some other teachers. By the time he was in middle school, he'd been expelled 3 times over. This was for his violent outbursts, but he didn't plan on stopping. He fought his mother as well and was even taken into police custody sometimes. She was abusive to him. She drank a lot and would throw the beer bottles at him when he was in the same room as her. He would also see several men walking to his mother's room at any hour of the day. He didn't know who these strange men were at first, but it didn't take too long before he discovered what was happening. When he became older and fought her when he didn't feel like being harassed, she would call the police. When looking at the environment, she would always blame him for why it looked the way it was. I, I, I couldn't control him, she would say. That little liar. And the police believed her every word. He didn't stay in the jail cells for too long, though. He would usually spend the night there, and he honestly preferred sleeping there. It was so much more peaceful there. By the time he was 14, it was his last year in middle school. 5 expulsions in total, and he somehow ended up in the same school as Bakugo again. From all of his encounters with this child and grown adults, he'd learned to read his movements. He could actually fight the boy and land a couple of blows on him. It didn't mean he ever won, though. He didn't actually have any form of martial arts training. He was a street brawler, and whenever he was close to actually defeating Bakugo, his goons would jump in. He couldn't fight several people at once while being quirkless, and it irritated him. When the teacher told the class how he wanted to go to UA, they all laughed in his face. It did seem pretty preposterous with his school record so far, especially for such a prestigious school like UA. And it didn't help that he was quirkless. With all of that in mind, it didn't make sense that he would even bother trying to make it into high school. His grades were decent enough, but his behavior was horrible. In his defense, though, he was a product of his environment. Life went on, though, and he almost lost his own to a man made out of sludge. They were apparently trying to take over his body, but thankfully All Might rescued him before it was too late. You questioned if he should have even been thankful to All Might for saving his life, though. It wasn't like he had much of a reason to live, but he didn't feel like dying either, he guessed. Even when he asked All Might if he could become a hero despite his setback, he didn't know why he was expecting a different answer besides no. It was all he ever heard, and he was sick of trying to prove people wrong anymore. He went through 10 months of grueling training and even picked up on learning how to use a sword. He picked up some martial arts moves during the 10 months he had until the UA entrance exam, and honestly, he couldn't tell you why he was trying so hard still. He told himself he was done trying to prove people wrong, but in all honesty, he probably just wanted an escape from the terrible environment he was in already. It always seemed that the strong had the best lives, so that was perhaps his reason for training so hard to have a slight chance of succeeding. His doubts about making it into UA still plagued his mind constantly during these times, though. He ended up enrolling in both the hero course and general course just in case he wouldn't make it into their hero course. He didn't know what UA had in store for their potential hero students, but at least there was a higher chance of him making it into their general course. Maybe he could turn his life around if he made it in, even if it wasn't the course he was hoping for at first. By the time of the entrance exam, he gained around 15 extra pounds of muscle. He would be lying if he said he wasn't nervous. Oh, he was incredibly nervous, and his legs felt like they wanted to buckle up. He pushed through his nervousness, though. He tried to get permission to use a sword considering his quirkless status, but he was denied, seeing as how it could be a danger to other competitors, and he didn't have that great of a track record. Izuku scoffed at that email when he got it, considering how basically everyone had a quirk that could kill if they really wanted to. Izuku sat in silence next to Bakugo when he listened to President Mike's speech. He never said a word when he found out he had to fight robots. Despite his best efforts, he couldn't compete, and actually wound up in a hospital after a robot swung their arm at him, sending him flying. His whole body was in pain, and the doctors told him he fractured several of his bones during this event. He was denied entry into U.S. General Courts, and Izuku clicked his tongue. His mother wasn't even there to see how he was doing, and to be fair, he really didn't want her there in the first place. He just stared at the ceiling for most of his time while he was in the hospital. He didn't have any friends or family who would visit him after all. He was dying of boredom while trying to heal. One day, some strange men walked into his hospital room. They were wearing plague masks for some reason, and he had a bad feeling about them. "Oi, kid," one of them stated. Izuku turned his head over to them with an eyebrow raised, trying to figure out what they wanted. "Who are you?" he asked. "Who we are? Well, you could say we are potential business associates." Izuku was even more confused hearing that. What did they mean by potential business associates? "You want to get out of those bandages, don't you?" "Yeah, I do, but what can you do?" "Well, if you accept our proposition, I can make it happen within an instant and you'll be as good as new. It will only hurt for a second." Izuku thought about it. He didn't have that many options here, and he figured there really wasn't much else to lose, so he accepted the idea. "Alright, so in exchange for fixing you up, we would like for you to test out this experimental drug of ours. So far, we've created a serum to enhance quirks, but we wondered how the serum would work for those without quirks. Would it give them any abilities of the sorts, would they gain nothing? You want to figure out what happens?" "Yeah, I'll do it. I got nothing else left to do after all. Nothing left to lose. Nothing." "That's the spirit." The man with the plague mask and green jacket took off one of his gloves and placed his hand on Izuku's chest. The boy exploded, and just as quick as he exploded, his body was reassembled. Things weren't done there, though. They stabbed a syringe into Izuku's chest, causing the boy to scream in pain. The taller, beefier-looking man with light brown hair covered Izuku's mouth to drown out his screaming. The boy reacted violently to the medicine entering his body, though. He kicked and bit the man's hand with so much force that it caused the man to start bleeding. The man tried to restrain Izuku, but the boy broke free of his shackles and swiftly moved out of the range of his pursuer's grasps. He grabbed his head in pain and started beating it against the wall. Izuku was karate chopped in the back of the head a minute later and slumped over unconscious. Rapper grabbed Izuku's body and threw it onto his shoulder before they all left the premises. That's how I'm going to be ending off the What If for right now. This will be part 0 of What If Deku was Deathstroke, Slade, Wilson, all of that. And honestly, look, just remember to comment, like, share, and subscribe. Help me reach 1,000 subscribers, hopefully by the end of the year. And that's all I have to say for right now. Well, that and join the Discord. I'll leave a link to that in the description as well. Besides that, comment what you think on the thumbnail. I'm still improving. And King Ty X out. Really?